Google indexes less than 7% of the internet.
Somewhere between 90 and 99% of online content lives in the deep web, completely hidden from search engines.
Search gives you this illusion somehow that it is finding things for us. It's a completely broken system right now. You go search for toothbrush. First 15, 20 results are probably sponsored. Some of them are fake products.
Totally.
You can't even trust the reviews anymore. You might see page 1 of 355. There are 4 or 5 different types of data that are inaccessible. APIs, workflows, personalization, logins, everything is going behind login. More and more stuff will be robbed immediately and you will never get attribution or revenue. That 50th page of Expedia, 50th page of Amazon, all of them need to be explored. You have to log in, you have to fill forms, you have to click on the 50th link, you have to watch the 100,000th video. TinyFish is about doing all of that and exploring all of them and come back to you with the answer in the most complete way, in a way that agentic search cannot do, in a way agentic browsers cannot.
If you think search engines and AI models give you full access to the internet, today's guest is here to change your mind. Most of what we call the web is just a tiny slice of what's really out there. Welcome back to IT Visionaries. I'm your host, Chris Brandt. Today, I'm joined by Sudheesh Nair, co-founder and CEO of TinyFish and former CEO of ThoughtSpot. Sudheesh and his team are tackling one of the biggest blind spots in modern AI, surfacing information from the deep web and building agents that can actually operate the web itself. I'm excited to dive into all this. Sudheesh, welcome.
Chris, thank you so much. And what an opening.
Yes, yes. Well, what a track record you've got. I mean, I first met you back in the days when you were at ThoughtSpot, which I thought was a really cool company that was clearly like 6 years ahead of its time, you know, considering everything that came after that. I mean, you guys kind of really led that, you know, like chat window interface charge for everything, which was quite prescient, you know, for when you were doing that. And a very cool company there. But now you're at TinyFish and you're working with AI in kind of a different capacity. And in the intro, I sort of discussed like how difficult it is for search to surface, you know, the majority of everything that's out there on the web. I mean, can you talk about sort of like the misconceptions we have about search and AI and like what actually it's producing?
Yeah, Chris, think about your Amazon shopping experience. It's been one of those staples of our lives. Everybody's a Prime member, everybody's shopping on Amazon. Just visually, sort of in your mind, think through what that feels like nowadays. You go search for toothbrush. Let's say, you know, you want to buy a toothbrush. You type the toothbrush. It is really good at understanding mistyping. None of those things matter. And then a page is created. You know what is the first thing that you are probably subconsciously doing is to make sure that you are not falling into the trap they've laid out. Why is that? First 15, 20 results are probably sponsored results. Some of them are fake products.
Totally.
Some of them the reviews. You can't even trust the reviews anymore. You click on the reviews and then see the summary and then you go through it and see, this looks suspicious, like same kind of languages. You know what? AI is changing that too. It's going to be very difficult to find. And what happens is, after spending maybe 30 seconds, maybe 1 minute, you're like, you know what? It's toothbrush. I'm just going to buy something, hope it works out. I don't want. And then you completely forget, all the way if you scroll down, you might see page 1 of 355. And you're like, there is no way. There are lots. So this is what search is doing to us. Search gives you this illusion somehow that it is finding things for us. But this what I call like surveillance capitalism that has sort of amplified because of the last 15 years of how internet grew for commerce. They get to put the thumb on the scale and say what Chris should buy. It's not what you're looking for. So it's a completely broken system right now.
Yeah, I mean, so why is it so broken? Like, why do we only see this small portion of it?
Yeah, you got to go back to the history of internet. I don't want to make it too boring, but it is important to understand sometimes. The internet started because, you know, silos of information were connected, and we need to make sure that everyone can access all the information and collectively make it better. Because that is how humans as a species grew. You know, we huddle around fire, people tell you stuff, don't build your home here, there is going to be waterfall or there is going to be a flood. And that is how information is passed. So internet is basically a modern way of saying, let's not cage information and then share it. So think of it like a bunch of interconnected libraries. You used to go to a library and then you open a book, find where it is, pick up the book, read and close and go back for references. And in that context, index is everything. It's all like the library for a dictionary book. Dictionaries, you start with the index. I'm looking for a word. I'm just going to see where word starts with I and that page number, and then you alphabetically go pick the word, find the meaning, close it. That is where it started. So if you think of Netscape to Alta Vista to Yahoo to Google, it was all about...
Wow, you're throwing out some really old terms there, man.
Well, I'm pulling some stuff based on my own reading. I didn't live through all of that.
I remember them all. I remember them all, yeah.
But if you think about it, all of them were static links because internet was static. And when it is static, of course, it makes sense to have the biggest index. And the biggest indexing company won, which is Google. Yeah. What Google did well, though, as the internet was growing, it's like, you know what? A little human being cannot really understand all of these things. So what I'm going to do is to summarize it for them or rank them. And that is why data ranking and page ranking became everything. So you have the biggest index, but ignore like 99.9999% of that. I'm going to rank it and show you. But the good news is the company is so good that they actually ranked almost the right thing for you most of the time. But then what happens is, if you have the biggest ranking system, you are the gateway to internet. If you are the gateway to internet, it makes perfect sense for you to start charging tolls for people to go through that. And the toll that Google charges are essentially your data, your dollars, or your time. All of them are monetizable. And that is the internet that we are in. What has changed though, internet is no longer a library. It is not somewhere you go to read or refer. This is where you live. This is where you find love, your home, your commerce. It's dynamic. It is completely different. Indexing ain't going to cut it.
I mean, I remember the early days, like, Yahoo, when Yahoo was the big search engine and it was one page. And if you wanted to get your site listed there, you had to call those guys up and have them put you. Oh yeah, it was wild.
Like a phone, you should call them.
Yeah, your phone or email them, and that's how you got listed on Yahoo. And then like obviously got kind of bigger. But like you're so right about when like Google kind of hit the world. Like at some point, it just became the default interface to the internet as well. Because I remember, trying to explain to, grandparents and parents, like, no, that's not the URL bar. That's the Google search tab that you're on. And so like, you don't look up Google by typing Google into the Google search tab, which people were, like they just like, like typing their URL into the Google search tab. It was like how like pervasive that was at the time. I mean, it really is crazy. But now we're in a very different world, as you say. I mean, this is the AI world. And, like for years, like businesses were focused on SEO optimization, like we got to get the search engine optimization so that we list and rank. But now people aren't going to get links anymore, right? They're going to get answers. So can you talk about how that has changed everything so dramatically?
Well, I think it is a function of multiple things. It's not just LLMs and answers. It is also that in the last 15 years or so, between social media companies all the way from Snap to TikTok to Facebook, we have invested literally hundreds of billions of dollars to figure out how to hack human brain so that there is no presence of mind. There is no mindfulness. How do we create creation addiction for humans to become dopamine addicted? And this was researched scientifically and built applications and given to younger and younger audience, which means the neural pathways as we are building it for younger kids, it is built so that you are not focused on the experience, the journey, but the outcome, right? So that was already happening. What has happened in the last couple of years, actually 3 years, is the language models became good enough to sort of super amplify that dopamine feeling. So Google, for example, for every search that was organically giving, there were 3 things that was interesting. Number one, it was ranking, but it was linking, which means the blue link still existed. So unless the summary gives you everything you need, like capital of India, for example, you don't need to click anything. It makes sense. But if you're looking for, is LDL good for you or bad? Let's say there is a controversy around it. It's not something you want to know in one line because everybody who's saying something, including me on this podcast, we all have an agenda. So sometimes you need to use your cognition, your deliberation, your skills, right? Your experience. And Google sort of gives you that link and you click on it, takes you to the page of a researcher who spent 10 years learning and researching. Maybe you read it. Number one. Number two, if you're selling a product to people who are looking for LDL, you potentially could pay money to show your product show up as sponsored result, but Google showed that they are sponsored result. So it's up to you. Hey, this is good. This is people paid for us, but it might be a good product. And the third thing is, for every 15 or so click, they were sending traffic to your website. So the 10-year research that I did, it is still valuable. What did LLMs and models do now? It broke all of them. Number one, there are no blue links. It's an answer. And not just an answer, it sounds extremely authoritative. And the answer is so well crafted, you just fall for it and you get used to the idea. Even if it is the right answer, now you don't have the journey, the experience. The path is completely forgotten. The second part is, there is no way to know whether it is sponsored or not. Yes, OpenAI and others might change some of that stuff, but for now, there is no way to know that. And this is important because it's a black box. How did you decide that this is the answer? What was the logic behind it? It's all paid. And the last part is, why would I spend 10 years figuring something out if LLM just crawls in one shot and then makes it theirs? So these are all completely broken.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges. I mean, I think it's sort of, Google's kind of an interesting case study because, they're known for their search, right? Yeah. Your ability to, the search engine. But I think considering how many sponsored items come up first, and like I click on those all the time too, because like sometimes it's like, oh, okay. It's almost like their ad search engine is maybe better at matching you to things than it is their search engine anymore, because really that's kind of what's happening there, right? It's like, it's taking all the ad content and saying like, it's not searching the internet anymore. It's searching through all the ad content and matching ad content to you more than it's actually searching the internet and finding the answers you're really looking for, right?
Ads are not bad. I mean, look, let's say you are in the market to buy a car. Of course, you want to see the companies reaching out to you. Like, salespeople are only bad when you don't want them. Otherwise, you want the salespeople. If you're in Home Depot, you're trying to figure out which way is up, and you finally find somebody wearing orange next to you, you'll be like, thank God, I can ask this person. So ads are going to pay for a lot of things. The problem is when you don't know whether it's an ad or real, when you don't know how you got there, and when you continuously short circuit the journey and the learning process and what happens, it'll be much easier to sell ads without making it look like they were ads. And that's where internet has to be rewired. It is not going to roll back. People would still want outcomes, but you have to rethink how the internet should be built.
Okay, so here we are right now. We're only surfacing 5% of the internet in our things. So like we're having to disambiguate what's an ad and what's content. And so like, I mean, like all of a sudden it's like, you're like, I'm not getting to what I want here. Yeah. And I'm like, I still have a lot of work to do. And then like, I've got to like figure out, is this AI answer right? Or is it gaslighting me, because AIs are great at gaslighting you, in some of those situations. But like, so there's like still a lot of manual process in getting to all this. And so I mean, here's kind of where TinyFish comes in. Like, can you talk a little bit about like what TinyFish is and like why it matters in all of this?
So look, I think the company's named TinyFish because we fundamentally believe that as AI wave continues to improve, there is going to be a difference between the distance between the haves and have-nots will continue to expand. The reason internet is amazing is because everything is in there. But if I'm looking for a very small bespoke experience away from Hiltons and Marriott for my family to experience the real life, we should not hold them to a standard where they have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to show up through Google or through ChatGPT. Right? It has to be a different way. If I'm a hotelier and my family has been running this, if I'm a coffee plantation that my family has been running for multiple generations, and if Chris is looking for the right kind of coffee, somehow you should find me. That's the whole promise of internet, connecting everything, commercing everything, right? So How do we do that? So the reason we are called TinyFish is because we want to make sure that the long tail of internet should be as visible as the first answer.
Yeah.
How do you do that? You can't do that through search, because search is a function of a suboptimal experience of being lost. And that's as simple, right? Who wants to?
That's a good way to put it,
isn't it? Early morning, you're going to work and you can't find the car key. That's not a good experience. You search for it. It should be right there. Right?
No, and as I get older, I do a lot more of that searching.
Let's not talk about age and getting old. I am sure. Like in a world where we are all young. Just think about all the experience we have and how much the world is changing. We are going to rule this world. Gen Xers are going to rule the world. I don't know.
I'm with you.
Well, I will say though, Gen Zs are going to kick our ass if you're not too careful. They're amazing. So anyway, millennials are doomed. They're in between, like Gen Xer, this is a great generation, and Gen Cs who are like even greater, and millennials are going to be in trouble. That's my view.
Uh-oh.
I don't know how many people I'm going to piss off with that.
This episode of IT Visionaries is brought to you by Meter, the company building better networks. Businesses today are frustrated with outdated providers, rigid pricing, and fragmented tools. Meter changes that with a single integrated solution that covers everything: wired, wireless, and even cellular networking. They design the hardware, write the firmware, build the software, and manage it all so your team doesn't have to. That means you get fast, secure, and scalable connectivity without the complexity of juggling multiple providers. Thanks to Meter for sponsoring. Go to meter.com/ITV to book a demo now. That's meter.com/ITV.
But going back to the point, search is a poor experience to begin with.
Yeah.
And second, search is very easy to control, because if I'm the one telling you which way to go, if I'm the librarian, I can send you to the wrong places because that's what I want to do. So that's number one. Second is, agents means that you can actually have human-like reasoning and human-like navigation, but can we do that at massive scale? So what we did with TinyFish is it possible for us to operate the entirety of the web for a specific domain? So you mentioned, 3% to 7%. You can go to ChatGPT or Google and search this. Google indexes less than 7% of the internet. And most people are like, wow, that doesn't make sense. It absolutely makes sense. They have a little over 4 billion websites that they're constantly refreshing through robot.txt, and some of them are dead and all of that. And the reason is, what's happening is there are 4 or 5 different types of data that are inaccessible. APIs, like web, prices of flights and others. Workflows, like scheduling stuff where I need to tell what before I can figure it out. And personalization, like your access, your cookies, how Amazon or Walmart shows off versus me. Fourth one is logins. Everything is going behind login. And the reason is, it's AI is going to only accelerate that. Because if I spend a lot of time write an article, within 30 seconds it is being scraped. And it is not just shared, it is actually without attribution, it is enriched and shared as its own knowledge. Models are doing that, which means why would I even keep anything out? So more and more stuff. Social media, where a lot of content is being created. And newspapers, almost all of them are behind login and paywall. And individual content creators like you, Substack, Medium, Podcast, they're all going to have to go behind logins, because otherwise it'll be robbed immediately and you will never get attribution or revenue. That's the fourth. And the last is that 50th page of Expedia, 50th page of Amazon. All of them need to be explored. And to do that, you have to log in. You have to fill forms. You have to exercise the workflow. You have to click on the 50th link. You have to watch the 100,000th video. Agents can do that. TinyFish is about doing all of that and exploring all of them and come back to you with the answer to the question you asked in the most complete way, in a way that agentic search cannot do, in a way agentic browsers cannot do.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a lot of really interesting points here. I mean, because we've built search monopolies. There's companies that are like monopolies because they just have paid their way to the top of the search, ultimately. Mm-hmm. And it makes it impossible for smaller companies or new companies to really break through without doing something spectacular. So I think we're losing an enormous amount of value from that as well. And then and the other piece that I think is really interesting that you're talking about is sort of the nature of data provenance. Because not only are people going to have to retreat behind paywalls to protect their data, But when you have AIs, aggregating that information and presenting it without any kind of like appropriate attribution or the deeper thinking that is needed to have that information, you're not getting the complete picture, right?
You are getting a picture that the thing is, you don't want to underestimate how good the models are becoming and how much better they will get. So it's sort of like you are a perfect example. So your brain, Chris, there are two things about something like you that makes you good at this specific thing that you do on podcasting. One is you're humble enough to make the person feel like, okay, he genuinely wants to know. Number two, you are smart enough to connect the dots between multiple conversations you had. And you are talking to a lot of people with a lot of experience, some of them smart, some of them like quick in learning. And what is happening to your brain is essentially a pre-training process that you're going through. It is creating new neural pathways. It is refreshing some of the dogma that you have, the axioms that you've built over years. All of those are getting constantly refreshed. Your brain is fundamentally in constant inference mode. So if I were to ask you a question about something, you might give me an answer. And you know what? It will be very difficult to completely say, okay, that is an exact answer that your guest from 3 episodes ago gave. It is actually your answer. It will be very difficult to prove that it is not. Why is that? Because you are smart enough to apply your own experience on top of everything that you gleaned. And then that becomes yours. The models are doing exactly that. So it is not easy to say that models are not adding value. My point is, why would I spend 5 years researching, spending a lot of money, and publish a paper in Nature, and within a matter of seconds, my monetization or my visibility framework is completely broken because the answer is not mine, but it is inspired by mine. And this has to be thought through. And this applies to retail. It's applied to every vendor doing commerce out there. Today, you might feel like somehow, I hope models will answer my product, but it is not going to be that your product will always be the answer. There are hundreds of thousands trying to be that one answer. We have to break that model. We have to disintermediate. Search should not be the answer. It should be more of an outcome-driven rewired web.
Well, I think what you're doing is really interesting, but you're not taking on a small challenge here. I mean, it's like if the behemoth of Google is only getting 7% of the internet, and you're trying to get the other 93%, expose that to people in their queries. That seems like a lot of work. I mean, talk about how you're approaching that massive problem of scale.
Yeah, I love that question because I'm not here to start a revolution and get perished as part of this. We want to build a company that is profitable. But I fundamentally believe that any company of value gets created because there is a vision that is never fully accomplished, but it is inspiring. Building an internet, building and rewiring the web for outcome. In a world where internet is constantly becoming everything for us, it is too dynamic and too complex and too massive and too much changing. It actually makes sense. People are aligned to that. Now come to your question. How do you turn that into something, right? Number one, you have to have faith that you can get some big stuff done. But you have to have a blueprint. The first blueprint for us is that go to B2B, only enterprise customers, and constrain the problem. So for example, if you are an insurance company, let's say there is a workflow, and this workflow includes quoting. It's a very boring process, but if you look through the process, it takes around 50 to 70 steps in producing one quote, because that includes going to my proprietary systems, logging into DMV to see what your driving record looks like, then come out and then process something, and then take that input and go to Experian and figure out what's your credit history looking like, and then come out and look at what's your family status, your income, and all of that stuff from other databases, and then come back to your own risk profile and your own underwriting styles, and then create a quote. Each one of them include 3 kinds of things: researching, engaging, extracting. Researching, engaging means form filling, making justification, and all of that. If you were to think about, you can go 100% within those constraints. For example, if there are 4 major credit reporting systems, I should be able to now, within a matter of seconds, have agents go into 4 systems parallelly in TinyFish world, where massive parallelization is possible. We have customers running millions of sessions. I can easily run 4. Now imagine there are 100,000 clients. I have to run 400,000 sessions. I can parallelly run. I'm not shortchanging. I can go through pages and pages and pages of report instead of just glancing through the first one or looking at the score. Somebody might be like low score. It is possible that when you read through their entire life experience, they got their life turned around. That is a tiny fish. That tiny fish need to be thought through in that holistic way. We could do that. So you start with high value thing for business to business where the problem is constrained and immediate value is created. And then what happens is that earns us the right to do the next thing. So our approach is, you are absolutely right. There's 6 to 7% in the surface, 90+% is underwater, deep web, and that is going to get bigger and bigger because people are afraid to put anything out there because LLMs are scraping. Instead of going at 100% of that, what we are saying is take a small slice and do 100% of that slice. Retailers who are looking for competitive pricing, people who are looking for, like you are looking for a coffee that needs to come from, let's say there's a coffee plantation in a small family in Nicaragua and they put a video telling how good they are. And I can now go watch 100,000 videos, my agent, and then come back and say, I looked at 100,000 of these, not just the 1 or 2. And then, Chris, this is the coffee that you should buy because it aligns with what you want and what you like and taste. I think that is our approach. And that is where we are today as a company, doing it for enterprise B2B, 100% of a slice of that deep web.
I got to imagine that could give you a real competitive advantage, right? Because, like you say, there's some real, gems in that like long tail internet piece, right? There's some people who have done research and dug into things deeply. And maybe they're DIYers or hobbyists who are doing it, but have incredibly good insights that never, ever get surfaced unless you're super deep in those communities, right?
We love this story. So our homepage, we are highlighting the story of a very small 8-room hotel in Tokushima province in Japan. They are not our customer. Our customer is Google Hotel, massive travel meta owned by Google. It's Google's product. And Google has this beautiful use case where they want every single hotel in the world to be available with inventory and pricing. So Chris is going for vacation. And I want to not just surface the name and the address, but also whether they have availability and pricing, because that's the most important thing when it comes to hotel search. The problem is this 8-room hotel, they don't have the API to manage and maintain and constantly upload the pricing. So if you are searching, it'll show Marriott pricing and availability, Hilton pricing and availability, and then this little hotel will show up, call property. They speak no English and you're not able to speak Japanese. And even if you do, you're not going to call it. Nobody calls nowadays. So they are completely disconnected. We have agents that are logging into hotels like this multiple times a day, if necessary, create scenarios and workflows to figure out 2 people, 3 people, check-in time, check-out time, up, floor here, looking garden versus swimming pool, whatever. Finding the price, uploading automatically, and suddenly these hotels are showing up with inventory and pricing. This is such a beautiful use case because that tiny fish, that little hotel, is now on the platform. We launched the company in August, end of August. So it's been a couple of months. And when we launched it, we had a video. It's on the website. We haven't published the video, which is 2 months later, we checked with them. Their business has grown almost 40% in terms of booking. And the reason is Google's platform is so powerful. You just need to bring them on. Their product is amazing. Their experience is amazing. They focus on what they do. For the rest, TinyFish need to be there. I think that approach is the approach that I think people will align to. There are so many amazing use cases where you don't have to sell your humanity and soul to go make a change in the world. And it's also not one of those things where we are saying we are all about changing the world, but without a commercial plan behind it. You can actually have both in this AI wave that we are seeing.
Yeah, it's sort of like, it makes me think of like when you go somewhere and you're not local, you're visiting a place and you talk to somebody who lives there and you're like, what's the best restaurant I should go to? Where do the locals go to? I mean, like, that's literally what you're talking about here. It's like, you're saying, let me get to that kind of level of information, right?
Why not? Think about it. If you are in Tokyo, Japan, for example, this is another. Google hot restaurant reviews don't work. Not just because of language, people don't put enough stuff out there. Even Yelp doesn't work. TripAdvisor sometimes work, but there are a lot of Japanese apps. And you're absolutely right. I am one of those people who also wants to experience the local thing. And it's very difficult, particularly if you don't have the language. But it might be there in one of the local websites or like next doors of that. Or there is a Yelp version of that. Imagine a world where without the constraints of language, without the constraint of resources, I am able to go through, what is it that you're looking for? You're looking for local cuisine of takoyaki in Kyoto. It's not Yelp or TripAdvisor, here are the best rank. No, I'm going to go look at every single thing. What is the local news groups and community and the websites and others are saying? I'll look at that. And then you also have a clarity of these are that level of, that is called operating the web, not skimming the surface through search or agentic browsers. We're like, you know what, this is a problem, but I will use Perplexity Comet or, OpenAI Atlas to do that problem for you. No, I want to demolish the problem. I want to go deep. And then I want to come back with, this is what you asked for, I got it for you.
And the thing that's also interesting about this is since you are taking an agentic approach to this and you can unleash, it sounds like millions of agents to go out and search things. So I gotta imagine everything happens really in basically real time too, right?
Near real time, as fast as the websites can go. Totally, yeah. It's not like stale data that others have scraped weeks ago. No, this has to be live. Like hotel pricing is constantly changing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, so it's not like you even, like we think of Google as sort of the index and Google has index content and things like that. I mean, this doesn't necessarily have to be that because you can go out and get all the real time stuff as it's happening and changing. Like I would imagine if you wanted to, like something just happened in my neighborhood, 15 minutes ago, that's not going to be in the indexed and in all the search engines right away. But like something, the approach that like you're taking, you could probably surface things on that quickly, right?
Yeah. So I will never want to compete on freshness alone because extremely fresh data is a very small slice where value creation happens.
Sure.
Some of them can wait. Here is the difference though. So for example, show me all hotels that have heated pool in Pittsburgh. So if you ask Google will give you an answer, a bunch of link. And there are, companies that are founded to be agentic search who will do more of a semantic search and come back and say, agents should actually use this to search instead of human ranking. They use semantic search, vector database, and others. That will have much more of a contextual understanding. But even that is not enough because, like you said, there could be other behind the login, behind the workflow things. But what is more interesting is, why am I looking at the hotel? It's because I probably want to see if they have availability and can I book. So the next question that I might be asking is, how many of them have availability Friday afternoon for 3 nights? And by the way, how much does it cost? And the last part is, can you book it for me? This is where everything breaks because search alone can't do it. Agentic browser can do maybe for one, but that also takes forever to maybe or may not work. Imagine having the ability to say, how many are hotels are heated pool in Pittsburgh. I'm able to find and surface 15 of them or maybe 100 of them. And then you run the workflow parallelly to see some of them don't have rooms, some of them are available, but some of them are like, $1,500 a night kind of thing. You don't want that. And then you come back and pick up and then say, these are available. And by the way, did you know that with AAA discount, you can actually get this? Let me give that. So it is now personalized. Wow. So ability to say who you are and what you are can be used through RAG or search. But when are you available and how much does it cost? And book it for me. Those are where real value creation happens. That's what operating the web means. Fundamentally a different approach. And that is where I think the web will evolve because people cannot wait for action that is not controlled by others. This is what I want. And that control should be to the consumer, not to the vendor.
Yeah, I mean, just because you're looking for a heated pool, I know that you're traveling with young kids because they because if you don't find the hotel with the pool, it will not work out. But that's an important piece of what you're talking about here. Is like, I mean, there's two things that are really interesting about that. Is like one is the context of everything. There's two parts of that. The context of understanding you and what you want and being able to apply your personal context to those searches, right? And then the other piece of it is like aggregating all of that information in a context that's useful to you as well, like presenting it like as one kind of uniform work stream, it sounds like, right?
That is
where
exactly
you can
right.
do the whole thing all at once, right?
Yeah. So it is basically the human search is a list that is thrown out, which works very well. By the way, Google will fundamentally change their search for agents as well when they know they can actually monetize, and that's the right time. It's not like Google is sitting on the biggest index, the biggest hyper-personalized information, contextual information, personality information, all of that stuff is there, which means that as soon as humans are not browsing the web and agents are more, they can simply open up that index and give semantic search available. So it's not like agentic search is going to be something Google cannot do. They're not doing it because it is not monetizable yet. You still want to put ads, and ads is cash machine for them as humans are seeing it, and they will change that. What is different, like I said, is that 7% to 93%, and then semantic level understanding, ontology, and making sure contextual execution of workflows are done. All three has to be done so that the result becomes yours, your zip code. Like what is the price of this cup and this mug? I don't know. It will be like $7. ChatGPT can tell you. But the question that I want to ask is, what is the thing for shipping to my home from this specific place? And by the way, I'm using Amex and it's got this cashback that I want to apply. What will be my price? That's what I care about. And I need installation services or maintenance services. That is where real value is created. And the answer can't be go to this link and search everything else I'm going to give you. That's not good enough. Multi-step, extremely contextual, hyper-personalized workflow with human-like reasoning at a superhuman scale, and then turning all of that into APIs. Developers should be able to give and get the answer for competitive pricing, social listening, price management, and operational intelligence across multiple domains. I think this is how you can actually build a company and change the world.
Yeah. Because this just happened to me the other day. We had to rent a car, and we were talking about, driving, like renting it here, driving it there, and, like the blah, 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 because we had two cars and whatever. But then, then after a while we were thinking like, why are we renting a car here? Let's just all go together in one car, and then some of us will take that car back, and the other we'll just rent a car there and just go point to point. And then we're like, but how much is the drop-off fee? And it's like I could have had that answer rather than arguing with my wife about this for like 3 or 4 days. I probably could have had that answer in about 5 minutes with like your agentic AI going out there and kind of like going, hey, how about if you change up your plans a little bit and think about it this way? That would have been so valuable. I can see the value in something like that.
After this podcast interview, I will probably send you a video of that workflow. It is that simple. In fact, it bugs me because there is a very specific rental agency, large car company, one of the national leaders. We couldn't close that deal because we were not ready with platform at that time. But one of the use case that they wanted to try was exactly this, which is they list the cars, and there are lots of complex workflows, some of them picking up, some of them dropping, options, insurance, security, corporate discount. But there's also another thing, which is the same thing is sold through Costco. And Costco is showing different pricing from their pricing. So they need to also audit and then figure out, hey, what is the price if I were to pick from Phoenix and drop it in San Diego? And I'm a AAA member and I have XYZ options that I'm picking. And I'm showing $66 and Costco is selling at $50. I need to know that. And to know that, you need to simulate hundreds of thousands of such transactions, all this variability. You're absolutely right. Though we are not going to business to consumer today, B2C, I really believe that starting with the B2B will sort of precipitate all this goodness to consumers as well.
Well, I've always felt if you can make it in the enterprise, you can make it anywhere. So I mean, it's true though. I mean, it's like if you can make it on Broadway, you can make it anywhere. But I mean, like it is sort of I found that to be so true across so many different business models and startups and things like that.
You're absolutely right. But I will also tell you, business B2C is like crazy place. Like amazing skills required in terms of demand gen, customer retention, churn, design. B2B, Enterprise is now becoming more consumerized with respect to taste and delight. One of the things that inside the company we say is that whether the brand or it has to have taste. Taste is not something you can buy, you can teach that. So one of the things that we look for people when we hire is to see, do they have the taste? And it's not like taste comes in one package, but they need to feel like I'm proud of my work that I'm doing. And if you don't, and one of the beautiful thing about AI companies, Chris, is that, you did, Pure Storage and Nutanix, I did at the same time. Everything changed. You can now do really big things with very few people. So we are being very careful about where we are setting the bar for taste in the company.
It's interesting you say that, because I remember I saw an interview with a music producer once, and he was talking, they were talking about like, how do you make it in the music industry and things like that. And he said, what you have to realize is I'm not selling the studio. I'm not selling the equipment. I'm not selling, my, contacts. I'm not selling, like the microphones I have. I'm selling my taste. They come here for my taste. So like, I just get rid of all like discussions about all that stuff and just focus on like, you're coming to me for my taste. And I think that's an important distinction.
Look, I think such a good point. Like Quincy Jones and others, what makes a good producer? And this interview itself, like I've done a few podcasts in the last few weeks, and it's like the experience of you bringing your point of view makes it so different. Like all the people that I've talked to, they're all good people, but they're all different. And the life experience, you're not making it look like I'm like, you're asking a bunch of questions and mail it in. It seems like a genuine conversation. And I am learning this point that you just made about this music producer. You can't find anything more under attack than music and creative things with AI now. Yeah. But people ask like, okay, AI is going to do everything. What are we going to do? I say, you do what AI cannot do. And one of the things that I always say is, almost 500 years ago, there's a guy called Shakespeare who wrote some stuff. And 400 years later, we are still learning. We have kids around who are still going to Shakespeare Festival and learning. And why is that? How many people's work will be remembered 400 years from now? Think about that, right? It's very few. So what made that person better? It is experience. Like your ability to sit and watch people and enrich that. Models can do some of, like I said before, but they cannot feel the wind on their face. The moonlight, how does it feel? I don't know how to explain, but you know it. What does it feel like to have the first kiss of your lover? These are all things. And if you slow down and imagine, that creates a different path that an AI can never experience. And this is what I think Richard Sutton wrote about in Bitter Pill. And people have been like trying to, and again, turn that into an intellectual exercise. There is so much left. In fact, if we do this right, it will free up people to experience. Like I always have ideas about how to make pots, like, pottery, but I could never master potter's wheel. The moment you put clay on it, and I don't know what to do with it. What AI is doing is, it doesn't matter whether you can master potter's wheel or not, your clay pots will show up. The toolification is what is being abstracted. So craft, taste will become more important, not less important. The problem is, vast majority of people are not working that muscle. They are not working what makes us human, and they are short-circuiting. Zero click is more important than reading and researching. Listening is a lost art. Harry Potter's author, she actually said once that the world's problem is that there are more writers than readers. It's a challenge. So I fundamentally believe that AI is going to fundamentally open up opportunities for those who have craft and taste to do more amazing things.
IT Visionaries is powered today by Meter, because every great business relies on great networks. If you're a network engineer, you know how critical uptime, control, and visibility are. Too often, you're stuck troubleshooting issues across fragmented systems or locked into legacy solutions that don't scale. Meter reimagines networking from the ground up. Their full-stack solution, from ISP procurement to security, routing, wireless, and beyond, gives you deep control and the performance you need. No more piecing together providers or worrying about bottlenecks. Just seamless, scalable connectivity built for today and tomorrow. Big thanks to Meter for sponsoring. Visit meter.com/ITV to book your demo now. That's METER.com/ITV. Yeah, I mean, I have people on like you who make me look good because it's like I like cool people doing cool stuff. That's my mantra. And, like I've got you to say all the cool things, and I just get to tag along and seem like I'm cool in that. But I that's so insightful because I think we struggle so much in this world of AI, just like trying to understand like where do we fit in. And you're right. I mean, if like and like even when you're like just going back to my example about renting the car, I'm like I'm thinking like you're like and then there's these discounts you can get, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that stuff. I mean, like I left all that on the table, and like I would have I mean, like in the alternative too would have been just like not rent a car at all, but and we ended up renting a car. But the bigger thing is now like I'm taking a trip to Michigan and I don't have to worry about all stuff. I can focus on like all the stuff that I want to do there, or like, like like the idea of like going to some like bespoke, amazing hotel in Japan and getting that just incredible, like local feeling and just a real taste of the culture, like like surfacing that kind of stuff, like talk about just the experiential nature of being human. I mean, like exposing and like you're right that all that stuff is sitting in that like backwater of the internet. So surfacing that like enhances the human condition in a really interesting way. So it's a different way to think about AI for sure.
And look, I think we have to do something worthwhile, right? What's the whole point in wrapping something and trying to do? Look, customer support is a classic example of a thing that will fundamentally be transformed because of AI. But if you think about it, customer support is transformed only because it is about saving money. Because when you are on that phone, the last person you want to talk to is an agent, no matter how human it sounds. There are times you want to hear from a human. But businesses are focused on saving money. Nothing wrong with it, but you have to be clear. The reason why there is a lot of people investing money into customer support for AI is because it's a denominator thing, reduce cost. What I'm thinking is that numerator needs to be improved. And numerator ultimately is about customer experience, customer value. What the heck are we doing with our lives otherwise, right? So if you like think of TripAdvisor, it's a beautiful company. It actually brings, meta information about travel reviews and all of that. And at the core of it, it is not what makes their platform good is not, the hotel OTA thing. That is done by Expedia and others. These are the online travel agents, right? They don't sell. They actually direct. But the reviews and experience. So for them, the long tail of internet is where the value is. If I'm in Milan and I want a walking tour and a tasting tour, obviously they are going to put their thumb and say, here are the 5. But if you spend time and then you go to that you might find that one person who is as crazy about that city and brings you the kind of passion. And then after 2 hours, you're hanging out in a dive bar. This has happened to me. So this is a live experience. And then you walk away with a memorable experience that you will never, ever forget. And why is that? It is because you didn't use your phone at that time. You went with somebody who had that local knowledge. It's not a regurgitated thing. That applies to everything in life. You can actually find, if you are truly passionate, and I want to acknowledge, we are very blessed and we are in a cocoon because we are on the other end of AI where we are able to build and control and monetize this. There is going to be a significant amount of, misery that AI is also going to create with terms of job transformation, automation, and all of that. So I don't want to be like insensitive to that. But if you happen to have the opportunity on this side, I think we need to think big. We have to make those small fish, the tiny fish, feel like AI is also for me. It's not just for TripAdvisor. They have an amazing data science team, but also me as a small walking tour of Milan that thrives. But that is the reason why I think the opportunity for us to super amplify distribution through human-like reasoning, where the entire internet is accessible. So people who are searching for will love it. There are so many people out there who want to make a difference in their vacation, not just go to the package tour that they recommended, the biggest Hilton hotel because you have some points that you want to spend. It's a good experience, no question about it. But there is a real difference when you feel what the world is truly about. And internet has it. It's just that they didn't pay enough to show up.
Yeah, I'm so about that too. Cause like when I go travel, I mean, like, like I go to Paris. I don't want to go and like sightsee. I mean, I love, Notre Dame and
Yep.
all that's amazing, but like I prefer like sitting in a cafe all afternoon, hanging out with people and, like enjoying the sort of like that local experience. I mean, I remember being like in like Barcelona and just like, like they have so many wonderful like squares where you can just kind of sit and there's like little restaurants and you can see, the school kids are all playing there and it's just like you get this amazing experience that like you don't get with like sort of the franchise that you usually end up being exposed to. Like you end up at more like the bigger national chains of things, which is like you said, I mean, like you can have a great experience there, and sometimes that's like when I'm business traveling, that's what I want, right? It's like let's go there, but like having access to the rest.
Yeah, I think there are two things there, though. One is, like I said, surfacing it. The other is being able to enjoy that. You could be there if your Wi-Fi signal or your phone has full signals, you might be still on your phone, right? I think the fact that you are able to immerse yourself in that moment, what I'm trying to say is also that the Bay Area behemoths are, surgically going into your brain, everyone's brain, to remove your ability to sit there and be present. So you got to be really honest about all of these things and really think about, are we really removing who we are and being human and then supplanting it or replacing it with the AI? And then we are doomed. To me, that is the AI doom. I don't believe in AI as a net negative at all. In fact, it is one of the best things that could have happened, and we're just so lucky to be in the middle of it. But at the same time, if AI is becoming more capable of the craft, the taste that we have as a human, that makes us who we are, we need to also work on that.
Yeah, I love stories like this because, I mean, how many times have you heard the term democratize the internet and all that stuff? But I mean, really what's happened in the time that we've had the internet is we have stripped away a lot of our humanity, right? I mean, because we talk about, like every, we're coming up on Black Friday and we always have that like, shop local, that whole thing. And that local went away because, largely because of the internet and the ability to order things online and just like, the bigger companies get the attention. And so like everybody ends up there. But a lot was lost during that. We lost a lot. I mean, we lost our communities, we lost local shops, we lost, just kind of that personalized experience in so many things. And I love this story because, we don't hear a lot of positive AI stories, and we don't hear a lot of like ideas about like, how do we, bring some of that stuff that we used to love, that small town kind of nature of things, that sort of like personal, like organic kind of connection that you make to businesses and people, like how do we surface that so that like we can get back to those great experiences that were so important to us.
It's not
that we've lost.
I'm not at all being naive about this. I'm not at all being romantic about the ideas of any of this.
I'm being very romantic about it.
But it is absolutely possible, Chris. My point is that I am a romantic at heart when it comes to these sort of things, because I know that is also realistically possible. For example, if the idea, like restaurants, think about like food delivery during COVID, it's actually precipitated this idea of eating out versus ordering in.
Yes.
And now, of course, there is absolutely use cases for that, where you want to get the food delivered. But what it also does, it fundamentally changes the ability for people to interact. And then my primary point here is that AI is, like, if you think of it, it makes perfect sense for the merchants of AI to make it look like it is magic, and others to say it is scary. And then the truth is somewhere in between. Ultimately, it is another tool. And, someone actually said GPT stands for, general purpose technology. And if it is not, it will become. And at some point in time, this will be yet another powerful tool that people who have craft will do amazing things with it. It is just that it is unlike anything else that we have seen in the last few decades. So if we are out there saying that, no, we can actually use this to fundamentally rewire the web so that human experiences surface, as opposed to algorithms are taking over, that actually makes sense, because algorithms are necessary because the scale increased, but human ability to interact. What we are saying is, it is too big for humans. Let us abstract humans away no browsing. Like if you're starting a company and basing it on browser, it'll be like starting a music company and basing it on Walkman. The experience of listening to music is what is important. So Spotify really works. A web is all about all of this stuff, and I don't need to click and clack. Let it come and tell me. So it's not, there are times where experience is the point. Like I want bored, I want to watch cat videos. I don't want AI to watch that. I want to watch it. But other times where you're trying to research and find that thing, the process, the journey is not what I'm looking for. I am looking for destination, the goal, and it should be 100% of the web so that I get the best of everything, not just the best of 3%, right? I really like that kind of ambitious goal. It's of course it is massive. Of course it is scary, but what's the point if you're doing something that doesn't scare you?
Well, I think you said something that I want to highlight, because you said it's too big. And I think that's exactly the problem. I mean, it's not so much like there was this evil entity that was sort of like, breaking us away from all these things. It's just that everything became so big that we kind of had to default to the default choices, right? I mean, because it was like, because it's not like the information isn't there, right? Because that's ultimately what you're doing, is surfacing that information. I mean, with a lot of work, we could eventually get there. And sometimes when you're really passionate about something, you can spend a week digging into something to find that thing. But, like having the ability to like you're like tiny fish, shrink you're a tiny fish in a big pond, right? Like you're shrinking that pond down so that like the things that matter to you can be found again. I think that's a really interesting story there.
I think you and I are kind of aligned in that experience part. It's very, sort of close to my heart too. So recently I went to China for a business, for a vacation in a very small city in Kunming province. And the thing when I think about, we had amazing time, lots of experiences and all. The one thing that I remember was there was a guide, and that guide was dropping us back after that city was done. We were going, and he's handing us over. And it's a train station. So he dropped us, there is security for that train station. So he walked us all the way, parked the car, walked us all the way to the gate. And then we had to go through security. And then it was 2 days with him. And when we were finishing security on the other way, when we turned around, this person was standing still there and then waving to us. It's such a beautiful memory for me that it's a commercial transaction, 2 days. It's not like I knew him, and he was amazing. He knew everything. He was very passionate. He was actually a professor, and he was doing this during summertime, a professor of history. So he spoke really well about China's history, made our experience so rich. And when I walked, I will never forget that this professional guide who's just out there moonlighting because he loves talking to people, practice English, experience the country and showcase and show the pride, share his history and knowledge, was there until we cleared security all the way until they could not see him. He was there. That is an experience I would like everyone who's seeking to have. But there is no freaking way that I can do that. But if I were to write that in a small review or a video, I guarantee you that it could be surfaced through agentic AI. And that is the outcome that we should be able to do. That is a win-win for him, for me, for everybody, for the better of the world.
Yeah, wow. That's what an amazing thing that you're talking about. I mean, I having worked with AI, I've become very optimistic about AI, but not naive to the incredible downsides. I mean, what's happening in AI is going to require some extreme societal changes, no doubt. And there's going to be enormous pains in that. But I think the potential benefits that's going to be is so enormous. And I think those societal changes are things that need to happen no matter what we do. And I think AI, to some extent, is just the last straw on the camel's back in that for a process that's probably been playing out since the Industrial Revolution. But we're looking at a giant transformation of our society. And we can either, I keep saying to people, I feel like we're at a point where we can either choose to build a paradise or choose to build a hell. And we've got to choose to build that paradise for ourselves. And AI is one of the great tools that can, like help us do that. But it's also the tool that can drive us into really bad and dangerous places as well. And I think, like really expanding on the potential of what AI can do for us as humans is valuable. And it's cool to have this conversation about, the breadth of what AI can deliver, because we get so much of the, we're like, oh, this model's better than this model. And, like we're like in the like the weeds and honestly, most people don't even understand what those weeds are, but we're still in them, just to be part of that conversation. But I think that I'm optimistic ultimately about it. It sounds like you are too.
Oh, I am. I'm always been optimistic. But, you brought up something very interesting, which I never thought of it as the change was already happening in a negative way and with or without AI. And now there is an opportunity at least. So like anyways thinking, but there is a life raft coming our way. That I think might be a very profound observation, because it's not because of AI that if you go to any restaurant, a couple sitting there and having meal together are both on the phone. That's not AI's fault. It is not AI's fault that it is very difficult for any human, any single person to walk to another single person and try to start a conversation in the real world. It has happened even before AI. So in a sense, there is an opportunity for us to make sure that everything that makes you who you are as a core human being is now more valuable. Your skill, your experience, your ability to experience, your ability to create based on that experience, your ability to explain what you created based on that experience. These things are actually going to be more valuable, because everything that is commodity is going to be different and it will be automated. And people thought like, blue collar jobs will be automated. Yes, of course, but it is lagging behind. The spatial intelligence is lagging behind creative intelligence that we are currently dealing with. So knowledge workers' job is going to be transformed. Coding used to be like a safe place. It is no longer a safe place. Wow. Like our company, one of our co-founders, he's a Pulitzer finalist journalist, Keith. He's the one who's completely designing our website and deploying it. He has never done anything like that until like a month ago, for example. So, but he has taste. He has stories. He's an amazing storyteller, right? That is where we need to be. And I'm very optimistic about this entire world. And I'm also optimistic because we have a small chance at making it happen, not just have things happen to us.
That amazing. Like I don't know that this is why I love talking to leaders in AI like yourself who see the potential, because you cannot have a conversation these days about AI without getting deeply philosophical about it. But I think that's the appropriate, way to view it. It is a big, deeply philosophical challenge.
You're not paying attention if it doesn't make you wax philosophy a little bit. Sure. I agree.
For sure. And I just want to say, thanks so much for bringing your perspective here. I've watched you over the years doing lots of cool things, but I think you're onto something really interesting here that gives me like really refreshes my optimism about AI. So like, thank you for that. And I'm excited to see where you go with this. I'm excited to see how it all plays out, and I'm excited for the future. Oddly, as in these sort of dark days that we live in right now, but I'm like optimistic for the future. So, thanks for everything you're doing. Keep up the good work. I'm so excited to see where you guys go from here.
Chris, this is such a beautiful conversation. Also, I didn't really know what we will be talking about, and it just felt like a really good conversation as opposed to a recorded podcast or anything. So I truly appreciate. Keep doing, what you are doing as well, because now more than ever, we need optimistic but realistic voices who are sort of thinking bigger than what is currently possible. Like everything that we are doing is impossible today, but it wasn't impossible. Maybe tomorrow it will not be impossible. And I don't want to miss that. So we have to push the limit. This is not the time to play safe. This is the time to build the future that we all sort of ask for. And we are starting with the most audacious thing, which is web. Rewire the freaking web so it is operational for everybody, not just the sharks and the whales, but also the minnows.
I love it. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.